I want to share with you today a thread, back and forth messages between someone I don't even know their real name. Now, I made a post about headlines and I forgot the exact nature of it, but essentially, if you're trying to trade headlines, you're an idiot. It doesn't work. So this guy writes me and he says, I saw your post about headlines and I tend to agree. However, I wanted to get your thoughts on this if you have time. He sends me some link. I click the link. I read a little bit, and somebody I don't know, some trader, maybe he's real, maybe he's not real. I don't have any idea. He's talking about making millions of dollars trading 1 minute candlestick bars. I wrote my new friend back, my new anonymous friend back, and I said, what is the exact question? He says, I'm asking if you think there's validity to the episodic pivot as defined here by blank, or would you classify that as gambling on headlines? Now, if someone asks me that kind of stuff, I'm already thinking they haven't read anything that I've written. They haven't listened to the podcast episodes with the Sakotas and the Heights and the Drees and the Bossos and the Parkers. That's my first thought, because all of that already expresses where I stand and frankly, where trend following stands. So I asked him, I said, you understand what trend following is? That was a question in response to his question about this person and their trading and whatever. My friend responds, yes. And he says, to be clear, I'm not asking if the episodic pivot meets the definition of trend following. I'm simply asking if you think it has validity. How the fuck do I know if it has validity? But 1 minute candlesticks? Let's say the odds are not very high. And if you don't know that by now, meaning my new friend here, or you listening, if you don't know by now that 1 minute candlesticks is kind of bullshit, how the hell am I supposed to help you? So I replied again to his question with, if you understand trend following, you know the answer. He replies, trend following is proven to work. No argument there. But there are lots of profitable traders who use other methods. Do we chalk it up to luck? Well, I have to accept his statement now, right? He's told me there's all these profitable traders out there. I don't know who he's talking about exactly. I don't know how profitability is defined. I don't know what evidence he uses. Now let's take a step back here. The only reason, and I've said this on this podcast so many times, the only reason I exist was because I was a curious guy looking through disclosure documents, audited performance track records on file with the Commodity Futures Trading Commission, United States, and seeing all of these performance track records going back, in my case, seeing them back to the 70s, 80s, 90s, and continuing to this day, and seeing so many different traders not affiliated with each other, producing positive returns in the same months, negative returns in the same months, finding the same source of opportunity. For example, like when cocoa took off this year in 2024. So my background was to find a particular strategy, find the proof, and then say to myself, wow, this is something. Now, there was not a lot of people in the industry talking about this. I sort of kicked the door in. I'm sure there's some people in the industry who wish I did not kick the door in, but I did. I was young, I was curious, and I wanted to share what I had found out. Now, where are all the other strategies with all of these other performance histories going back over time? Like, don't you want to see that? If you're going to tell me that there's some other profitable strategy, don't you want to be able to share with me more than just one guy who says he has performance? Okay, sure, maybe this one guy has proof. I don't have any idea. But then don't you want to find other people that are doing the same thing and also having success? Don't you want that too? That was the whole point of my work, the whole point of my first book, Trend Following. Here are all these performance track records. They're all doing trend following. You can verify it, you can see it, you can connect it to the big events. There's proof on top of fucking proof. Now, this guy's already told me he likes trend following. He's familiar with my work, but he's asking me these types of questions. Now, why do I participate? I participate because it gives us a chance to all learn. I participate in a conversation that I know exactly where it's going to end before it starts, but I play along like a good sport. So to restate what he said, trend following is proven to work. No argument there. But there are lots of profitable traders who use other methods. Do we chalk it up to luck? I replied, if trend following has been proven to work, then use that method of proof to apply to all these other traders with other strategies. I then followed up. Why ask me anything you already believe? And I put believe in all caps. I mean, he's already made up his mind. He's found something he believes in, and he wants me to tell him yes or no. Is that what he really wants? He really wants me to tell him yes or no? This is some kind of weird, non-logical way to find out something. I don't know what the hell he's trying to do. I never in my entire life have approached anybody of note to speak like this, to ask these kinds of leading questions. And it gets better. So he replies, because I respect your work as a trend follower, and I think TF is great. I enjoy hearing traders of one system commenting on other systems. Helps me to learn. Well, what the hell does one think I've done across 8 books and this podcast? I've talked until I am blue in the face about comparing the proof of trend following to the lack of proof of other strategies. So somehow or another in his mind, he thinks because he's not getting the answer he wants right now, I've not done the work. Very strange way to debate. Very strange way to argue. Very strange way to behave if one is actually after the truth. And maybe he is. Maybe he just doesn't know how to get to the truth. Maybe you think just like him. Well, if you do, then stop, because that's not the scientific method. It's the bullshit method. Let me calm down and continue. I replied to him. I've already expressed my views backed by data on your type of questions all over my books and podcast. Your newest example isn't new. And I followed up to say, so what am I really saying to you? He replied, I didn't mean to suggest anything was new. Then he talks another name of another trader and talks about mean reversion going back decades. Really? Where are all the disclosure documents of mean reversion going back decades? I'm waiting. I know Toby Crable. I know Jim Simons. Those guys are studs. And I'm not sure exactly what they've done. They do very short-term trading and they're very successful. But where are all these mean reversion track records? And he continues, I just found your post that trading headlines is not a strategy, it's pure gambling, to be a bit too black and white. I agree with the spirit of it, but I also think it's possible for someone to study earnings over a period of years, learn sound trade management, and be very successful doing it. It's like word salad. I'm asking for proof. I'm very clearly pushing him for proof. And he's giving me word salad. How many people out there think like this? Maybe I've got to rearrange how I think. Meaning maybe I need to really break down trend following to a more base level. Because if people are stuck in the idea of 1-minute candlesticks and word salad going on forever, then I'm definitely not reaching one part of the audience out there. I replied to him, you had this view before you ever asked me a question. I knew that from the start. I don't see the evidence for your view. He replies, I had a view, but I wouldn't exactly call it a strongly held conviction or anything. I'm old enough to look back and realize how often I'm wrong, so any view I have is held lightly. When you say evidence, are you referring to backtest results only? Now, mind you, he said he's familiar with my work, but every time he says something new, it sounds like he's never read any of my work. He could be a fine person. He could be a fine family man. I have no earthly idea. I don't know his real name. He doesn't have a real name on his X account. But it's the thinking that I'm after. It's the thinking that I want to expose because it's useful thinking to show people the wrong way to think. I replied to his backtest results only question with, what is the foundation of my books? Question mark. Backtests? Question mark. My opinions? Question mark. No. Go read my 5th edition of Trend Following. Now, at this point in time, there's some of you out there listening, and perhaps this guy who would think to themselves, wow, Mike can't answer my question. I asked him a question. He can't answer my question. Well, why the hell would I tell somebody to go read the 5th edition of Trend Following? All 220,000 words of it. Meaning you're going to wake up if you read it. You're not going to ask me the kinds of questions you're asking me. You will take it to another level. You will get out of this bullshit level of 1-minute candlesticks and mean reversion and all this other shit that doesn't have the proof for it. He replied, performance proof. Got it. Listening to this right now. And he referenced my episode 1227 on my podcast. He replied, so my takeaway is the evidence is proven performance of successful trend following traders. Makes sense. The question that leaves me with is what to make of proven performance of non-trend following traders. Well, where the hell is this proven performance? I don't know. I have no earthly idea. He then says, again, do we chalk it up to luck? Question mark. Or maybe that their strategies borrowed enough concepts from trend following to be workable. I've listened to your interviews with another name, for example, and he's very similar to the first name that he mentioned. Their conviction in cutting losses short and letting winners run overlaps with trend following, but their discretionary selection entry process is different, which begs the question, is their discretionary element superfluous, or is that what made them so successful? Question mark. Now, aren't we now right back to Trend Following 101? Trend following already is a strategy where you're going to have 60% losers. So he's now finally admitted, after this whole thread, his excitement, his focus, his desire is on the entry. And why is that? Because in this world of predictive technical analysis, people love to believe if there's a moment, if there's a pattern, if there's a squiggly line, that therefore means this will happen tomorrow and the next week and the month and the year. That is not trend following. And there is not. Go right now to Winton Capital. Go to Campbell and Company. Go to Dunn Capital. Go to Mulvaney. Go to Aspect. Go to TransTrend. Those are all very large trend following hedge funds. Now, find me the alternative. Find me the very large hedge funds. Find me the very successful traders with the proof of focusing on entry, focusing on 1-minute candlesticks. Where is it? It doesn't exist. Now, I've already acknowledged in this episode that there are some fantastic traders out there. I've acknowledged this on my podcast. I've acknowledged this in my books. Fantastic traders that have nothing to do with trend following. Well, guess what? They're not you. The whole point of trend following, going back to the turtle experiment, was the average person could take a shot at trend following. The average person can't take a shot at being Jim Simons. Get it? Can I be any more clear? You don't like my opinion. Well, guess what? My opinion is based on the data. Lots and lots of data. You don't like the data? There's a lot of people out there that don't like the data. There's a lot of people out there that think there's 600 genders. There's all kinds of crazy shit out there. I saw a great one the other day too about archaeologists that when they locate human remains, let's say thousands of years old or even farther back, they always just find male and female. They don't find the 31 genders as defined by New York City law. I wonder why that is. I mean, if it's real, it should be part of the archaeological record. It should be part of the data. Tangent over, you get my point. Anyways, back to my friend's last question here, which begs the question, is their discretionary element superfluous or is that what made them so successful? Question mark. And by this time, you can already tell I'm probably getting a little bit bored. Logical fallacies, misrepresenting my position, not really understanding trend following, not really doing your homework before you ask me these questions. Again, he could be a fine person. This just isn't how you do it. This isn't how you investigate. This isn't how you dig. So I replied, good luck. Of course, I know what I'm doing when I say something like that. And he replied, I don't understand why those questions are so out of bounds. As I said before, I'm a TF fan, but how the heck are you supposed to learn it without asking questions? I replied, you find one person doing XYZ and are excited. If you've read about my work and my background, how could you possibly think that would be interesting to me? Question mark. Especially contrasted against trend following? Question mark. But it's interesting to you, so good luck. He replies, I'm just trying to approach this logically. Tangent, no, he's not. Or he doesn't understand how to do it. He continues. If the thesis is that trend following is the only way, right, I've said that. Of course, it's the only way. I've said trend following is the only way. I just love it when people misrepresent me. Continuing, if the thesis is that trend following is the only way, then I have to examine the cases like name, who you found interesting enough to interview multiple times, and rightly so, and approach them with an open mind. Some of his methods overlap with trend following, some is discretionary. You don't think it's worth asking if the discretionary part is a net positive or net negative? He's like having a conversation with himself that supposedly includes me. Misrepresent my positions. I can't ever imagine saying something like that to any of the legends that I was fortunate enough to be mentored by. Say that to Bill Dunn, say that to Ed Seykota, Larry Hite, they'll laugh you out of their office. Now, I'm not saying I'm Larry Hite or Ed Seykota or Bill Dunn, but my point is very clear. Now, when it comes to my podcast, indeed, I've had hundreds of guests on my podcast. I've had people with different strategies than trend following. So what? That just means I'm an open-minded person. That's not the point of the conversation here. The point of the conversation here, which my friend never got, is one of data. And sure, you can go believe in a strategy with no data. A lot of people go to Vegas. You can do it. But if you got a strategy that has lots and lots and lots and lots of data over many decades from many, many practitioners, isn't that more valuable? Of course it's more valuable. Now, by this time, you can guess, I am out the window bored. And I said to him, did you read what I just wrote? Clearly not. And oh, by the way, a word of wisdom, don't try to put words in my mouth or use logical fallacies. Bores me to tears. Now again, best of luck. I let him have the last word, and he said to me, it seems the work you've done on trend following would have naturally led to ask certain illogical questions which you don't feel are worth asking, which is fine. But the idea that I should have known that without asking is bizarre to me. Best of luck to you as well. Like textbook passive aggressive. Again, he could be the nicest guy in the world. He could be a granddad. He could be middle-aged. He could be 25. I got no idea. But don't be passive aggressive to people. Be real. Now, I know in this modern world of Oprah and Dr. Phil and feel me. People don't like to be pushed. They don't want to be made to work. They don't want to be made to think. Just let me ask a question, even if the question makes no sense, even if the question is insulting, even if the question shows that I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about, just let me ask questions. I find these things instructive, primarily because I've got to figure out a way to reach people that don't get it. Now, of course, some people are never going to get it. Some people love the Holy Grails. Some people love believing in whatever comes down the pike. If it's fast and loose and it's promising millions of dollars overnight, man, you got people who are going to line up for that no matter what. But the point of my world, the point of my perspective is to stand my ground, put the work out there, and say, if you want to compare to trend following, then compare to trend following. But sure as shit, do the work. Find the data. Make honest comparisons. Don't give me word salad. Now, look, I'm not going to try to stop you. If you want to live a life of word salad, be my guest. But you're not going to meet interesting people with that. You only meet interesting people if you show that you got it, if you show that you know it. Going out, I want to share one quick nugget in this same headspace. And it happened to me a long time ago. And it was before my first visit with Bill Dunn. And I think this happened on the phone at first. And I didn't know what the hell he was talking about. But I was making the case that I wanted to come down and meet him. I wasn't promising anything, except that I wanted to learn from him. And I think he called back the schedule or something. And his attitude on the phone, I'm almost certain this is how it went down. But I know exactly what he said, whether it was in person or on the phone. You just want to come down here and impress me, don't you? And I love that. I'm not sure I even necessarily know what he means all these years later. But essentially, deep down, he had the puzzle figured out. And he knew I wanted to figure out the puzzle. And if you want to figure out the puzzle, you go to the people that have already done the puzzle, right? That's how life works. But when you go to the people that have done the puzzle, show them that you think clearly. Show them that you have an open mind. Show them that you're not passive aggressive. Show them that you're real. And my friends, if you can do all of that, I guarantee you, whether trading, business, education, whatever it is, you'll have a great life. It's always been this way. Some people figure it out, and some don't.
I see a time when those awake will understand how to make money in up, down, and surprise markets. Whether new trader or experienced, college student or financial advisor, protecting against a crash or just trying to make a lot of money, trend following offers everyone an answer in uncertain times. To get started immediately, send me an email, michael@covel.com. I will send you the right trend following steps to take along with my free video. But if you want to buy and hold, trust the government and trust Wall Street, this is absolutely not for you.